Time for my top 5 of the year so far. Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Zach with Zacks Books, and today I've got my top 5 books that I've read so far in 2024. Again, had a little hiatus, but we are back now. And yeah, I've read, I think I'm on track to finish my goal this year. I think I've missed the past 2 years for a lot of different reasons. But I think I'm back on track. I've read a very good chunk of books in the past couple of days now. A lot of them have been like short stories, but potato. I've read some really big like bangers as well here. So I actually just finished one that's actually on this list. So this is up until July 18th is the last book I read, so this is being filmed the day after. A lot of good books to talk about here. So yeah, we'll have the 5 of these linked down below if you're intrigued with any of them, and also down below is the Patreon, Danielle's channel, and all that other fun stuff, the Bookstagram, so on and so forth. And yeah, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and let's get into my list of books. Alright, so I was unsure whether I was going to actually rank these 1 through 5 or just list my top 5. I am going to actually do rank these, starting at 5 and ending at my favorite. Coming in at 5th is the one that I actually just finished, and this book was eerie. That is Incense Around the House by Josh Malerman. I apologize if there's a glare. This was eerie as can be. Oh, geez, where do I even start? We're following this is from the perspective of an 8-year-old, by the way, too. So like it's like even scarier coming from like a child's perspective. I'll read the blurb here. A chilling horror novel about a haunting told from the perspective of a young girl whose troubled family is targeted by an entity she calls Other Mommy. So Bella is the person we are following here, who basically has this situation going on where there's this entity in her closet at the beginning, and she calls herself Other Mommy, wants to be called Other Mommy. And then there's Mama, and then there's Daddo. That's like the nicknames that she gives them. Then there's Grandma, and I think her name was Ursula. Grandma Ruth. Ursula's the mom. And basically we're following this little girl who is just being traumatized by this entity known as Other Mama, or Other Mommy, and it is absolutely like chilling to hear, especially from a kid's perspective, because like, you know, it's an 8-year-old. She doesn't really know what's going on fully. She has this whole theme of like innocence is what comes into play later on. My review on this book on Goodreads, I mentioned the ending of this book was like chilling, and I still stand by that point. It was an ending I didn't expect, so I will say that much. I don't want to say too much more about the ending, but I didn't expect that to happen at all. So, but Bella as a character was absolutely adorable, and there's like this troubled relationship between Daddo and Mommy, and it's perspective from an 8-year-old just makes it like all the more like gut-wrenching because it's just so innocent. So, but yeah, coming in at number 5, Incense Around the House by Josh Malerman. Alright, coming in 4th place is actually the book I read first this year, which it has stood the test of time, and it was number 1 literally until these other 3 in front of it, because duh. That is Whalefall by Danielle Kraus. So this is this year's Project Hail Mary. First of all, look at that cover. Scuba diver, pretty sure it's a sperm whale is what it is, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, a sperm whale. So in this book, we are following this guy named Jay Gardner, I think it is, and he's trying to find the deceased remains of his father in the Pacific Ocean. And in doing so, he gets swallowed by a whale. And like this book like really kind of like hit home with me because of this whole like father-son aspect. Like at some point he's like communicating with the whale, but the whale's like actually like his like dad's like spirit in some form or fashion, and like you get these little like flashback moments between like when he was younger and his dad with him, and like now when he's in the whale, and it's this whole big like it's like this really cool story, and I like love this book. And it's like I said, it's this year's Project Hail Mary for me, because that book was like a long shot and it like was phenomenal. This book, I mean, there's not much else to really say. It's like a father-son story between a whale and a scuba diver. It's pretty much the best way how I can spin that book. But it was really good, and it's definitely worth the read, and it's a really good book. Really hit home with me. So there you have Whale Fall by Daniel Kraus. Alright, coming in third place is my Stephen King book. Well, I've read a couple Stephen King books this year. And honestly, You Like It Darker, the short story collection that came out this year, is actually pretty solid. But I am going with Lisey's Story. This is a book that I had put off for a while, obviously. And this was one of the last ones I needed to finish to complete his whole entire repertoire of books. It's probably not the right word to use, but whatever. And I, at first, gave this 4 stars. Had it kind of in the middle of the pack. And the more I kind of pondered it and thought about it, I ended up giving it 5 stars. And I absolutely love this story. We're following Lisey DeBuscher. Oh, Landon. DeBuscher is her middle name. Lisey Landon. And basically what happens is her husband, Scott Landon, who's a famous author, passes away. And basically like what happens after the author is dead. And the journey for her with, like, you know, a crazed fan. He goes to this place called Booyah Moon, I think is what it's called. Booyah Moon. And basically we find out more about Scott when he was a kid, his deranged father, and why, like, Booyah Moon became, like, a thing. And, you know, how Scott can, like, go there. Like, she, you know, Lisey mentions in the story, like, you know, you were here, but you weren't really, like, here, like, you know, where do you go? Like, where are you? And Booyah Moon ends up being, like, his, like, place he wants to go to. That's where he gets a lot of his, like, ideas for stories and stuff like that. And this just deranged, like, fan who hires this one person to, like, try and collect Scott's, like, unfinished works. And, you know, all this stuff happens. And I really love this book. I don't know, I just really like it. Also, this cover is really cool, too, with, like, the shovel, and then, like, you open it, and it's like, that's Booyah Moon, supposedly. But I really thought this was a cool story, and like I said, at first I didn't, but the more I sat on it, I was like, this is actually a pretty good book. So, there you have Lisey's Story by Stephen King. Alright, coming in second place is a book that a lot of people recommended me to read. They gave comparisons to It by Stephen King for this book, and I got that for the most part and pretty much right away. So I'm going with number 2, Summer of Night by Dan Simmons. This book was A, beefy, and B, really good. We're following a group of, I want to say it's 5 or 6 young boys after school. Like, school's out, obviously it's summer, and on the last day, this kid named Tubby Cook, like, disappears and vanishes within the school, and pretty much what ensues is, like, the whole town, like, pretty much goes to crap. A lot of the people in the town know about the stuff going on in this, like, what's going on. There was something that involved a bell tower, and I will say that this book was written a while ago, like a long time ago, like I think in the 80s or something like that. So there's some vulgar language and a lot of racism. So just if that's something that does not interest you, then be ready, because there's a lot of racial stuff. So be ready. And basically going off of that, a African American person is hung off of a bell tower, and like all this stuff like goes on, and it's so it literally reminded me of It a lot. The first chunk of the book, I will say, kind of gets slow, but then about a third of the way through or halfway through, someone dies. Somebody who like you really don't expect to, so that's not really a spoiler because I'm not saying who it is, but not somebody you would expect to die dies. And after that, it takes off. There's like a little like red truck. You definitely probably can't see it on the cover here, but there's a red truck on here on the bottom that is like polarizing for the story, and it's really creepy. They always freak out whenever they see the truck because the person who's driving the truck is always trying to like kill the kids, and all this evil stuff is going on in this town in New Haven, and Elm Haven, Illinois, and it is just so eerie. This book is, and I loved every second of it. I did get it vibes, but it took a little while for it to kind of kick in the first little bit. Obviously, you're getting introduced to all these characters, but once it got going, and I absolutely loved this book. But there is one that was better. I am going to do a more deeper dive of this book and the next book in a separate video, and I'll just leave it at that. I'm going to do a deep dive with these two books. So, because they haven't been in a video, and I read these like 2-3 months ago, I feel like. So, those will be in a video coming up soon. There you have Summer of Night by Dan Simmons coming in at number 2. Alright, my my favorite book of 2024 this year so far. I don't know if any book is going to beat this. I highly doubt it. Boy's Life by Robert McCammon. A lot of people recommended this book too, and I loved it. There is It, which is a coming-of-age story. Summer of Night's a coming-of-age story. The Body is a coming-of-age story. And then there's this. This is one of the best coming-of-age story, probably the best coming-of-age story that I've ever read. We're following a boy named Corey Mackinson. Basically, like, it's a weird story because something happens at the beginning that is like polarizing to the story. A murder takes place. Some truck gets driven into a lake and the person dies. Corey's father goes in to try and rescue the person, fails, and is living with this grief throughout the whole story. And basically it's just this story of like Corey during the summer. Like, he hangs out with his friends. He does this, he does that, he does all these things over the span of the summer, while in the back of his head there's still this, I found this feather out in the woods after the person, died, so now I'm looking for some kind of feather, what kind of, who would do this, what did this person look like? Like, he's still going about his day like normal, but he's still trying to figure out, okay, who did it, like, what happened? I loved every second of this story. I actually got a little teary-eyed towards the end because there is a touching, like, father-son moment that happens, and it's like, and, like, it's so good. I literally could not, I wanted to read it again, like, right when I finished it. Like, I was so tempted to just read it again. It's so good, and I need to shut up about it. So I'm going to do a more deep dive with this book and Summer of Night in another video, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, there you have my book of the year for 2024 so far, Boy's Life by Robert McCammon. Alright, so those are my top 5 books of the year so far, and again, we are a little over halfway through July, and also, by the way, happy birthday, Bubba. Her birthday was a couple days ago, so. But yeah, very exciting stuff I have read so far this year, and there's a couple books that were on the verge of going on this list. Could have probably done a couple honorable mentions, but it's whatever. I'm just going to do my top 5. So, again, Summer of Night by Dan Simmons and Boy's Life by Robert McCammon will be in a more deep dive video coming out in the coming days, weeks, whatever, just because they have not been in a video yet besides this one, and they really need to be talked about because they are masterpieces, both of them. So, stay tuned for that. But again, we'll have the 5 of these linked down below for you guys so you can check them out. Again, down below is the Patreon, Danielle's channel, Bookstagram, all that fun stuff. Let me know what your top books of the year are so far in the comments, and otherwise, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Later.